For those of you who don't know Ben, I don't know where you've been, but Ben is a Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller with his book, Uncommon Leadership. He's got clients ranging from Fortune 500 execs to people in the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, PGA, UFC, NCAA, you name it. He was rated as one of the top 10 motivators in sports. He's one of the top 50 motivational speakers in the world. He's the performance coach for Michigan State football and basketball. He's the mental conditioning coach for the Alabama football team. They've only won 18 national titles in football. He's also the performance coach for Kansas State, which I think has been about an 8-year run at K-State. And he's worked with coaches and players for the last 6 Super Bowl champs. So that is quite the resume. Before we jump in with Ben, Kathy, get us started. Ben, I hope you liked our intro.
Man, that is really something else. That gets the juices flowing, and so many guests that you've had previously, inspire me, and I've been blessed to be impacted by them in my life, and I couldn't be any more excited to have the opportunity to spend this time with you all today.
Well, we are fired up. I don't know why the pictures were all pixelated. I don't know. Maybe we have too many people on the call. But anyway, I have got so many questions for you, Ben. Your book's incredible. Your career, which I think is 17, 18 years as a performance coach, is unbelievable. And there's so many different places to start. But let's start with how you woke up this morning. Tell us about your alarm.
Well, first off, before I tell you about my alarm, we gotta add some fairness to this equation. You've highlighted like everything that you want everybody to know about me. I think it's important to note I still have 2 coaches. I'm still reading books every single day. I am far from having this figured out, but I'll tell you what I do love every single day is the opportunity to pour into others with the gifts that God has given me to fight to be the best father I can be, to fight to be the best husband I can be, to fight to be the best coach I can be. And like I said, I'm trying to figure it out. I've been knocked down plenty of times. That's why I have those coaches and then the mentors on top of that for me to get back up. But very, very excited to be with all of you. And I appreciate it, Scott. And so to answer your question, I'm a big believer that success requires a tremendous amount of discipline, but it also requires creating an environment that causes you to be disciplined. And I have the opportunity to work with individuals in the sports and business world every day, which kind of makes my days fun. I could be talking to a head coach of one of your favorite teams in the afternoon. And, that morning I was speaking to a financial advisor for a top financial firm or, anything in between. So it's a lot of fun, but you find that a lot of times we know what we need to do. We know what we want to do, but our environment is not set up to do it. So my dear friend, Ed Milet, asked me in one of our interviews one time when I was on his podcast, he said, Ben, he goes, tell people about your alarm clock. Tell them about your alarm clock. So I love that you're starting there, Scott. My alarm clock is actually named after my mother. So if you were to actually see my alarm every day, it's titled, a lot of people didn't know this, you can actually title your alarm clock. So the title is Janet Fishman Newman Legacy. That alarm clock is not next to my bed, and I'm not calling anybody out. So don't nod your head or raise your hand if you're the one hitting the snooze button, because it's conveniently sitting right on your nightstand next to your head where you sleep. But I decided a long time ago, years ago, I got to get this phone out of the bedroom. And so I literally put it in the bathroom. So once it goes off, it's a light little jog to get to the bathroom. Otherwise, my wife's going to kill me if I wake her. And then I look down at that name, Janet Fishman Newman, and there's no going back to bed. Because my mother is my inspiration. She battled a rare muscle disease when I was a young boy, passed away 11 days before my 8th birthday. And what she left behind, and I'm sure we'll talk a little more about it, is a burn and a fire to embrace every day, one day at a time. And I believe there's a lot of coaches that do the work that we do, that they talk about why and purpose. And I say this very humbly. I'm the only coach in the world who over the last 17 or 18 years has studied the importance of the burn, not your why and purpose, the burn. And it's why we've had the success we've had with so many high performers, is helping people understand that burn that lies inside of you, which actually ignites your why and purpose, which are so important. And then it causes you to be disciplined on the days that you don't want to do it, and especially after you win. And so I think it's important, from your phone to your office to everywhere that you compete every day in your life, that you set up the right environment to drive discipline.
I love it. And I think one of the reasons why you're such an incredible and impactful coach is it's those tactical things. Put your phone in the bathroom, give it a title that will motivate you. Like, that's stuff that every single person on this call can do today. And, you know, to create good habits and create more discipline.
Well, which is like, you talk about environment, you see Jeff Gamble right here. See, yep. right over his left shoulder, he's got Your Mental Toughness Playbook, my book. So he's set up for success every day. He stares right at the Mental Toughness Playbook, the tools that are going to help him. He's got it all set up right.
Jeff's the man. He's a master of the prop. I love that. And that shows you Ben's attention to detail, that he picked that up. You talk a lot about that most people live to feelings versus standards. And I think it's a fascinating topic. Talk to us about that concept of living to feelings versus standards.
Yeah, so this was probably the thing that kept me at Alabama for 5 years. You know, most people, if you ever study Nick Saban and how he does things, there's a level of expectation that most people are so scared they don't even want to walk into the Malmore football complex. So I found that it was a great blessing when I was challenged in 2017 to come in there, and Coach Cochran, their old strength coach, says, Ben, he says, you know, we got 2 days scheduled, but if it doesn't go well at the beginning, I'll throw you out of here and you'll never be asked to come back. And I'm like, well, that's a welcoming invitation. And so we designed this 2 days to connect to the players, and it went incredible. And what resonated the most was this message of standard over feelings. And I firmly believe it's what kept me at Alabama for 5 years, which really, when you look at Saban, that doesn't happen. He doesn't keep people around for 5 years. And so it was a blessing and an incredible run. But what I shared with the team was you can't allow your feelings to dictate how you show up. And so I really said it a different way, but I was really highlighting what Saban had already believed. But this is what I believe, that each and every single one of you, back to that discipline wins or driving discipline, there's standards that, you know, when you do certain things in your life and you live to that standard, you will create momentum and you will win. When we allow our feelings to dictate how we show up, we actually move away from the standards that actually cause you to have success. And it happens in one of two ways. Sometimes the feeling, it's a negative feeling. Yesterday was so challenging, I don't want any part of today. So you actually wake up and you intentionally, rather than silencing the pain of yesterday, you bring it with you. That's a choice that you don't have to do. We have to silence our self-talk, not allow the feelings to dictate how we show up, and say, today's a new day, and all winning is done one day at a time. So I'm not bringing that emotion with me. I will attack today. And then the other side of not allowing your feelings to dictate how you show up, which is what Saban really liked, because all they know is winning at Alabama, is I challenge them. How do you show up after you win? See, because we all can win, but how do you show up after you win? And that's the most important element of the standard. The highest performers in sports and business, they're never seduced by success. The moment they experience success, they understand, here's the reason why I had success. There's standards that I live to. There's disciplines that cause that success. And I connect to this burn or this fuel. So when I experience the win and the success, I'm going to wake up the next day ready to attack that standard again. And then it becomes a cycle of winning. And that's the standard. So standard over feelings is a concept that we've taught for years. And actually, I can share with all of you, August 1st, my next book is actually going to be released. It's called The Standard. And I think there's too many coaches and too many, speakers and individuals that are talking about the standard, but it'll be the first book ever written that actually breaks down what the standard is, what the standard isn't, how you can reverse engineer the standard in your life, and how you can drive continual peak performance to hit your next level.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think a friend of mine, Jesse Itzler, is one of the best examples of somebody who has never been seduced by success. Whether it was, he writes the song, Go New York, Go, or he sells his company to Warren Buffett, and he sells his next company to Coca-Cola, and he marries Sarah Blakely and this and that. He's never seduced by his success ever. And he's got that burn that you described. Another interesting thing that you talk about a lot that I'd love for you to explain to everybody is your concept of a prize fighter day. What do you mean by that, Ben?
First off, I love how Scott pays attention. He's got to be diving into the mental toughness playbook, right? I've always known this about Scott, but I love this attention to detail. And before I answer this, this is very important for me. I meant to say this earlier. I always get thrown into this category of motivational speaker. One of the things that, Scott, I appreciate you mentioning earlier was, me being a coach. And so even though I'll get brought in to do a keynote speech, and I love it, but I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm a coach. So even in this time together today, if I just motivate you and we laugh and cry together, that's fleeting and it's only going to last so long. But if I can leave you with something that drives long-term growth and sustainability, that's a way that we can win today and win going forward. And so that mental toughness playbook has been downloaded over 1 million times. And it's available on Amazon, but today, in appreciation for this opportunity, and probably the most excitement I've seen in somebody bringing me on for an interview, I'm going to give everybody a free copy of the book. So if you go to freeplaybook.net, freeplaybook.net, the exact book that's up in Jeff's corner there over his left shoulder, everybody can get a download of it. So when I share this prize fighter day concept, you can almost not take notes and just know you can go download it later and you'll literally have it right in front of you to build yours. But I've had a fundamental belief, Scott, that there's far too many, and I'm going to say this a lot. And I said, I have 2 coaches. I'm reading books every day. I'm trying to figure it out. But there's a lot of people who, they just changed their Instagram bio last week and they're a coach. There's a lot of people that have really never, everybody's a coach, everybody's a speaker, everybody's an author. I've been doing this for 17 or 18 years. So I understand what it takes to win. And I really get tired of leaders and coaches who say that balance doesn't exist, just work really hard and take time off. And the reason why they say that is because they lack discipline. Well, first off, I'll tell you, if your coach lacks discipline, that shouldn't be your coach. Your coach should be an example to you of what it means to show up every day and attack what it takes to win personally, professionally, and in your service to others. So over 15 years ago, I built what's called a prize fighter day. And I've got coaching clients of mine. There was one coaching client of mine. We've done work together for 10 years, and his name is Brandon. He's a high-level, top 1% financial advisor in the world. And it was probably 6-7 years ago. They would bring me in to speak every single year, and he's given me this bio. And he says, I bet I've heard Ben say prize fighter day 10,000 times on our coaching calls. I want to reach through the phone and punch him every time he says it. I'm just tired of hearing it. And I came and I took the stage and I said, well, brother, as long as you have me as your coach, I'm going to keep saying it because it's the only way I know to win. And so back to those disciplines I referenced earlier, every single one of you, you know the things that you need to do every day personally to look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, you know what, today I won. And if I do these things every single day and I stack these disciplines and behaviors, the byproduct is winning at very high levels in my nutrition, in my relationships. Personally, we know what we need to do. And then it becomes a choice whether you do them or not. So the Prize Fighter Day encourages you to choose the behaviors and the disciplines in your personal life that cause you to win. Eating right, your nutrition, being present and focused with family, reading, right? Whatever it is that drives you so that you can look in the mirror and say, today I gave it my very best. Because if you can do that, that is winning, and nobody can ever take that away from you, and you can never ask any more of yourself than your very best. So winning is not these rings that I've won. Winning is not bottom line. Winning is one day at a time, giving it your best. Second thing is you're professional. We all know the disciplines that will cause us to be successful professionally. So for individuals who are in sales, you're building a pipeline. I developed a concept years ago, rather than calling them dials, which when I started in sales 25 years ago, it was the old rotary phones, as many of you remember, and you dial until your fingers bled. And so now I call them POCs, a point of contact. So a point of contact, it's a text message, it's an email, it's a phone call, it's a social media post, whatever it might be, that says to the marketplace, I'm open. It's your voice saying I'm open for business. So if you're driving sales, and I would even submit everybody's in sales at some point in time, but there's POCs that create a brand or a marketing strategy for you. For some of you, it might be I have to do it 5 times a day, 20 times a day, 25 times a day. Remember, I told you environment. Here are my daily POCs, right? So I'm a living example of what I'm asking you to do. I know exactly what I need to do every single day. So whether it's our coaching business, our speakers bureau, our live events that we throw, I'm going to hit a POC in every one of those areas. So that is a living, breathing entity every day. I will not waste a day. And so you all know the little things you need to do personally, professionally. And so it's doing those things every day, not being one of those individuals who says they work hard or they say what they're going to do. It's when I have a conversation with your action, you're actually doing it. So what are those things you have to do in your business every day? They're non-negotiables that drive momentum, a pipeline, and growth. And then the final piece, the third piece, is of service. I believe the world that we live in today, it can be a sad world, it can be a hard world, it can be a tough world. We need more people to love on people. And John Wooden, I don't need to tell this audience who John Wooden was. John Wooden, arguably the greatest coach to ever coach anything, actually wrote more best-selling books in his 90s than 99% of best-selling authors. And John Wooden used to say, you cannot have a great day until you've done something for somebody else with no expectation of anything in return. So I believe you can't have a prize fighter day until you've done the things personally, professionally, and in your service to others. Random act of kindness, an unexpected intentional touch, something positive for somebody else. That when you do those things in those 3 areas and you look yourself in the mirror and say, I followed through and did it, that's winning. And the byproduct is winning at very high levels.
Ben, you've coached elite athletes and you've coached elite executives. Do you coach them any differently, or is it exactly the same?
So it's I love the question. So believe it or not, a lot of people, they see all the success that we've had in the world of sports, but many people don't know that all of my work actually started corporately. So from 2006 to 2011, all of my work was in the corporate world. I was a financial advisor, which is how I got my first start. The first time I was ever hired to speak was 2006. And I don't say this to impress anybody, but I got off to the fastest start in the history of a Fortune 100 financial firm. And there was a little boutique firm that said, what the hell are you doing up in Chicago? We'll pay you $500 to come and speak. And I'm a 26-year-old kid. I'm like, $500? Like, this is a thing? Like, you'll pay me to come and speak? And so they said, we'll pay you all your expenses too. I'm like, this is unbelievable. And so, you go and you give this talk and you fall in love with it. And then you start paying attention to these nuances and these details. And we started building these disciplines. And so from 06 to 11, the prize fighter day and these 6 mental training tools that are now in this gift that I gave you today, it was all corporate. And then in 2011, my old high school basketball coach, who's a character in books that I write, still one of the greatest mentors in my life, literally for his retirement, I took him to see the Redskins play the Eagles. I had players on both teams. We took him on field, like great retirement for him, crazy experience. We got to travel together. I love this man. And that's how my work in sports got started. He called me in 2011. He says, Benny Boy. He still calls me Benny Boy to this day. So Benny Boy is what he called me back when I was playing. He said, Benny Boy, these kids are underperforming. You need to come fire them up like you used to do. Will you come do that for me? And so I go to fire up these high school kids from my alma mater, the high school basketball team. And then I spent 10 years giving back to my high school basketball team for free, not for any money, for free, because I wouldn't be where I am without the mentors and the coaches who served and gave me. I would never charge my coach. And these kids that first night, they had this unbelievable, that they knocked off the number 10 team in the city. I was hooked, they were hooked, and my work in sports started. And then yes, kind of a fun answer, long answer, but fun answer to the question. Then in 2013 was my first opportunity to work with Will Compton. He was an undrafted free agent heading to the Washington Redskins. I had never used these strategies outside of business. So he and I show up at a Panera Bread. He was from Bonne Terre, Missouri. I'm from St. Louis. We meet 45 minutes in between. I had sent him a DM on Twitter because a mutual friend said we should meet. I said, you want to do mental toughness training before you report to Redskins training camp? He's like, are you serious? Let's do it. I had no idea if a professional athlete would love this. We sit down. I challenged the hell out of him from the first question. And we built a prize fighter day. We reverse engineered, why were you a captain at Nebraska? What were the things that made you great? Stop doubting yourself. Stop focusing on the fact that you're 7th out of 7 on the depth chart behind London Fletcher and all these great players. You focus on going and capitalizing on your opportunity. And sure enough, he made the Washington Redskins, played 9 years in the league. And now we joke about it. I say, can you imagine if you would have looked across this booth and said, dude, this is nonsense. NFL players don't believe in what you're teaching. Like, it would have been over. But I took this risk and he took a risk in me. And, now he's like a little brother to me and it's this great success story. But that's where I first realized that it's the daily disciplines in sports or in business. It all comes down to your discipline, the consistency in your discipline, not making excuses. And that's what drives continual peak performance, which is really why people turn to our coaching. I'm not here to help you through 2 weeks. I'm here to help you change your life for the rest of your life, to do the things that you want to do, continual peak performance. So if you're done playing the game of football, I want to help you create a business that generates more revenue than you did playing football, that creates more of an impact and legacy than you had playing football, because you capitalized on the foundation and opportunity you were given because of a game. That was a conduit for you to then figure out your next level of peak performance. So I'm a never finished, own it mentality kind of guy. You guys can see I'm starting to get pretty fired up here. The vein starts popping out of my neck. So I love the questions and I love the opportunity. So let's keep firing away.
Something you just said is going to cause me to ask a different question than I was going to ask. I think people are excuse machines. They just make excuses for everything. Have you found what's the best way to eliminate excuses?
Well, first off, let me start here. Self-talk is one of the leading causes of somebody never reaching their potential. And I'm not saying anybody here needs to go play in the NFL, right? Whatever you're doing in your life, you have got to limit your self-talk to be able to reach your full potential. And it starts with 4 words. And these 4 words, maybe you haven't heard in a long time. And I'm going to say these words to each and every single one of you. Even though you're all new friends, this is the first time for us having the opportunity to meet, other than friends that I see from, posts and social media and comments and things of that nature. 4 words. I believe in you. And most people, we get to this point in our lives, we're adults, right? I'm a 44-year-old man now. I faced enough adversity by 8 years old. I'm probably about 85 in terms of what I've had to endure in my life. And I've been to enough therapists, you could call me doctor. So I've had to make it through all of it. But the reality is, most of us, we stop believing in ourselves because of the pain, the adversity. And when you think about an opportunity, that's when the but this is what happened the last time I tried. But this is what happened the last time I tried to do that 5K. But this is what happened the last time. And before you even allow yourself to start, the self-talk keeps you from taking that first step, from going that first day. And so I don't want to just say, I believe in you. I want to tell you why. Because my mother passed away 11 days before my 8th birthday from a disease called amyloidosis. There's still no cure for it. My parents were divorced at 6 months old. I never knew my parents together. My dad then moves back into the house, drug addict, alcoholic, manic depressive, bipolar, not a great environment for an 8-year-old kid. So when I say I saw more by 8 years old than many people see in a lifetime, that's the truth. I had every excuse in the book to give up on life. If I would have been a drug addict, people would have said, of course the kid's on drugs. Nice guy, but of course he's into drugs. His dad was like that. It is what it is. But there was some calling for me. Right? There was some blessing. There was this deep faith. I didn't understand it as a young boy. I understand it now. That actually enabled me to take the words when somebody said, I believe in you. And to take the coaching when people tried to coach. And what that's done for me, it's enabled me to empower people to live one day at a time. If somebody's telling you or some circumstances cause you not to believe, start believing and then take it one day at a time. Because my mother passed away at 38 and I'm 44. So every day past 38 has been a gift that I've been given, and I will not waste a day. And if I can help you be more intentional in designing your life to win one day at a time and not allowing the pain of yesterday or the win from yesterday, or what you think is going to happen tomorrow, or the fear you have tomorrow to dictate how you show up, and just go one day at a time, I promise you your life's going to change. And I don't need to be your coach. You don't need to pay my coaching fee for that. You don't need to hire me for an event for that. I just want you to know that when I say I believe in you, it's because I've been doing this for 17 to 18 years and you're the author of your story and it's your turn. And I know some of you have already had great success, but it's the continual peak performance because you have been winning to say that winning isn't enough. They haven't seen anything yet. And I believe in you that you can go attack that next level. And it comes down to the same thing, one day at a time.
Phenomenal. Ben, I have so many more questions for you, but these guys are going to revolt on me if I don't let them ask you questions. So we're going to turn it over to our outliers. And Chris Petruski, he's only been waiting like 6 months to ask this question. So
I think just to tease him, you should let somebody else ask in front of him and just make him wait it out even longer.
Just screw with him.
Scott, I'll come to Connecticut and find you, buddy.
I know you will. I know you will. Chris, you are up with the great Ben Newman.
Hey, Chris, hold on. Chris, you got literally, like, I appreciate you so much. I knew your name even before you started, all the excitement about it. Take your phone out or something. Let's get a picture, like, or a recording, or let me say Chris Petruski's the man. Like, let's capture this because I appreciate you.
I can't even tell you how much that means to me, buddy.
Hey, I pay attention to the details. And so, like, I recognize names. I know, and, it's a tough thing in a business like this with as many people as I work with and as much travel. But I recognized your name before you were even doing this. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. So first thing I'd like to say is you have made such an impact on me since I discovered you through LinkedIn. I'm not a reader. I have your book. Can't really see it, but I read it 3 times already. It's made such an impact on me. The Prize Fighter Day principles have made such a huge impact on everything in my life. I think it's amazing the stuff that you do, that you bring to the table. I follow you on social media, obviously, because you know me. You're such an inspiration as a husband and father, and as someone who serves the community too. It's just amazing. My question is, all the amazing friends you have, like Ed, Andy Frisella, the coaches you've worked with, Saban, Izzo, Coach Clement, who has made the biggest impact on you And then the next part of that is because I got to sneak something else in there. Otherwise, this wouldn't be worth it for me. Is who's someone that, dead or alive, doesn't matter, that you wish you had the opportunity to work with? Coach, athlete, business person, anybody.
So I'm an emotional guy. I cry when I watch Extreme Home Makeovers. So Chris, you got me, brother. I'll tell you the first person that I'd say probably has the biggest impact on my life. And I probably don't give her enough of the credit that she deserves every day, is my wife. You know, my wife, for this run that we've been on, and my wife is a very smart, powerful, amazing woman. She was a vice president at Anheuser-Busch when she retired. So you talk about, she is a ass kicker of a human being. I mean, she attacks life. She came from a tiny town, Edinburgh, Illinois, where most people never even get out of the town. I mean, like when she first took me back there, I'm not a big, you know, St. Louis isn't a real big city, but I'm a city boy compared to, you know, Edinburgh, Illinois, one stoplight. And, you know, you see that, it just, you know, it highlights how amazing she is. And, you know, her support of this career. I'll give you this one example. You know, imagine how crazy this is, right? You get to football season, I'm on a sideline every single Saturday. That's hard for me. It's hard on the family. You know, speaking, I've spoken in 9 different countries on this run. I mean, it's wild, the demands of what I do. It's actually been, I've always done stuff virtually, but, you know, now that I can do more virtually, it's actually a great thing. And as our team has grown, it's a great thing. But my wife has never said no. You can believe that. Not one single time has she ever said no. If I've said, we've got this speaking engagement, well, this bowl game came up, or this came up, or I've got to do this, she's never said no. She'll voice and communicate, hey, this will be, you know, this might be stressful, this might be tough. She has never said no. She's never one time held me back from fighting this fight that I fight every day. And that is who I would tell you probably has the biggest impact on my life. And that's more clear to me now than it's ever been, Chris. The second answer is without a doubt my mom, and I wouldn't be coaching her. I'd sit there as long as God gave me, and I would sit there quiet and I'd say, Mom, tell me everything that I still don't know. Because when you're a young boy and you don't get everything, you get a small window into her thinking. And I was blessed to have a journal that my mother left behind, which is her wisdom and her mindset as she was dying. I mean, it's amazing. It's in my safe in the other room. I mean, she wrote things in this journal like beat the statistics, beat the odds, live with the disease that is chronic and fatal, believe in yourself, combat anything, purpose in life. And that was my mother's mindset, and she was dying. And so if I could just sit with my mom, whether I got 5 minutes or an hour, I would sit there and I would be a servant son, and I would just listen to the lessons that I haven't been able to hear yet. So Chris, I appreciate your question.
I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, brother.
That was a tremendous tribute to your wife, Amy. And I know Isaac and Kennedy are lucky to have you as a dad. So that was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to a guy who played a little bit of football, about 11 years in the NFL, Yale grad and current CEO Appeals, Chris Hetherington in California. You're up.
Appreciate it. Hey, Ben, pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, it is great to hear from you, see you, spend time with you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Is that Will Compton back there?
That is the Will Compton jersey. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's developed a nice little, personality and career for himself. So we enjoy his stuff.
Before I answer your question, can I tell you guys something that's amazing?
Yeah.
So this prize fighter day, as I alluded to earlier, that's the first player I ever worked with in the NFL. So I actually went, once he made the team, and then they ended up putting him on the practice squad. I was so excited to be working with my first ever NFL player. Chris, you know what it's like when you make one of those rosters, right? I was just happy he made the practice squad. He's happy. I fly out to DC to celebrate making the practice squad. We were both excited, right? Hadn't even made the team. And I sat in his apartment. He was renting a room from Dijon Gomes, one of the cornerbacks who was one of his teammates at Nebraska. You can never forget any of this stuff. And we sat there and we talked about what he believed he would do after the game. Chris, he was on the practice squad. And he literally sat there and he's like, man, he goes, when I get activated, I'll never look back. And he goes, the thing you got to understand about the league, and Chris, you know this, like, I'm better looking when I'm active. My jokes are funnier when I'm active. You got to capitalize on the brand. And so he literally said, he's like, I'm going to be a speaker. I'm going to build businesses. I'm going to build a brand. And so I had to bring this up. What he's done with Bussin' with the Boys, he told me about it 10 years ago on the couch in Dijon Gomes' apartment in Virginia. I mean, that's the intentionality, but he put the discipline behind it. So I had to share that because there's so many amazing things that happen when we believe in ourselves. And Chris, you can tell everybody it's hard to believe in yourself when you're on that practice squad trying to make the 53.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you hit home with a few things that you talked about. One is, really the thing that changed my life was when I realized that everybody needs coaching. I've had some success in my life. I've been a mentor, to a lot of people, and I made the decision to, join the Outlier Project, which has made a huge impact in my life. And then Scott, in particular, he introduced me to this guy, Devin Levesque, and I joined his group called the Inner Circle. It's a 4-month program. And my question to you is, one of the first assignments or challenges we had during this 4-month program in the first week was of a list of 50 core values, define your top 3, no matter what core values, which essentially dictates everything you do professionally or personally. So, hanging out with people or doing business with people or getting involved in certain businesses, whatever it is. So my question to you is, what are your top 3, no matter what core values, which ultimately dictate how you spend your time personally and professionally?
So in my phone, everything is in my phone. This is an old picture of the kids. I just love this old one. But every morning I read what I call a legacy statement off of here. And the legacy statement is inside of your mental toughness playbooks. You guys are all going to get it for free. And so in that legacy statement, if I were to open it up, those 3 core values, the answer to the question is there. Okay, so I know what they are. It's discipline, toughness, and legacy. And so those are the 3 that are most important to me. We have to have discipline. You got to get up one more time than you've been knocked down. You got to display that toughness. And I believe the legacy piece is it has to be bigger than us.
Yep. Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. All right,
Thank
guys,
you.
I'm going to ask everybody a favor. Make sure you keep your questions condensed because we have a ton of questions and we have limited time with Ben. We're going to go to Paul, and then we're going to go to Tag. So Paul in Florida, then we're going to you, Tag, in Connecticut.
Wow, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time. I've learned so much from you today. You talked a lot about how, we all have the ability and we should to share our story. Being that you've written multiple books, I'm working on writing mine this year, The Greatest Detour, The University of Adversity. What advice would you share with me from your experience of writing books? Like, if you wish you could go back and do it again, what would you do differently, or what would you say?
So, in terms of writing books, my first book was written in 2008. The Standard will be my 8th book, released August 1st. And I've run the gamut from self-published all the way to a contract with John Wiley & Sons for a book called Own Your Success from 2012. And so I've been everywhere in between. Some advice that I got from John Gordon, who led me to Christ. It's one of the biggest mentors I've had in my life. I mean, I would say he's arguably the greatest author walking the face of the earth today. By the way, little plug for him, his Power of Positive Summit starts tomorrow. It's a free online event. thepositivesummit.com. There's 30 speakers that are part of that event. It's a blessing for me. It'll be the 6th time that I'm part of this Positive Summit, but it's totally free, all online. And what John always taught me, he said, you're never going to please everybody, so don't try to please everybody. And so whether you're writing a book or giving a speech, you have to be you, authentically you, share what's on your heart, and know that you're never going to please everybody. So don't write this perfect speech. Like, If you need to move or challenge somebody's mindset, know there's some people who might not like it and they might not have nice things to say about you, but there's other people that's exactly what they need to hear. And if you try to be some voice that's not authentically yours and tailor some weak message in between, and it's not you, you're not going to get to where you want to get to with your message. So I think with your book, I think make sure that it's you. Don't worry about how many copies you sell of that book. Write the book for the right reasons. You know, far too many people call me. I do a lot of work for a lot of the online gurus and speakers and coaches behind the scenes. They come to me for advice and I get to coach them, and people never even know I do that work. And so I think it's really important that, you know, whether it's one of them or whether it's you, that you share that right message that's authentically you.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to learn from a legend today.
I'm no legend, Paul. Those other pictures are legends. I'm trying to get there, but I appreciate it.
Tagging Connecticut, you are up. Then we're going to Chris in South Carolina.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, Ben. God, thanks for setting this up. And I'm just thankful I didn't follow the question after Chris Petruski. Ben, no, and I mean that in a sincere way. Thanks for being vulnerable there. That spoke to me in so many different ways, and at the crux of, I think, of who I am, what I do too. Just by you sharing that tells us you believe in us, and I appreciate that. You hit on three key things. I've been an athletic administrator at the collegiate level and the interscholastic level. The interscholastic level is my wheelhouse. I love the ability to have an impact on kids and families and coaches and teachers there. I had a high school coach that believed in me, and I learned that lesson from him, and I've been able to carry that forward. When I transitioned from collegiate athletics to high school athletics, I met with a mentor. I said, you know, what am I looking at when I get into this? And he goes, do you like serving others? If you don't do it. So the service and others. And then the everlasting message I've developed over time is the legacy piece, teaching young people, you know, life lessons, and doing that. In talking to coaches, I think it's a generational conversation. It's 30 years ago, there's coaches, I think, having this conversation. But I was wondering if you could give me and some others insight on the coaches that you've working with, say, college-age students anyway. Some of the college coaches that have been around for a while, but I still consider young, in their late 40s, early 40s, they talk about having trouble connecting with kids. And you've given a ton of meat and information today about that, especially in that soul of the belief system. But I was curious, in terms of symptoms, problems, and solutions, what are some other things coaches are doing to deal with that issue, especially coming out of the COVID piece for 2 years?
Yeah, so there's a huge shift. And so with your experience, this will resonate with you. Those that have been in athletics for a long time, Chris, Scott, this will all resonate with so many of you when you hear this. When we were young kids, that coach could come up, put that finger right in your face, drop some fire, and you were ready to attack. Like it is a different world today. Like that doesn't happen. These kids are innately selfish. These kids are confused. These kids are torn by NIL money. You know, these kids are distracted by social media. It's a different world. And one of the things that I encourage coaches today is to embrace the importance of this burn. And the burn is so critically important. So this underlying burn comes out in different ways. Okay. So my mother is my burn. When I think of my mother's name, I see that name on the alarm clock. There's no hitting the snooze button. There's no wasting a day. That's my fire. That then ignites my why and my purpose, which causes the discipline. So why comes in the form of sacrifice for people. Maybe you're sacrificing for somebody. There's somebody that's little eyes watching you and how you show up. Or maybe somebody sacrificed for you and you're not going to waste that sacrifice. And so when I start, I remember my first talk at Alabama, within 5 minutes, everything I shared about my mother coming to the dinner table with an IV stand, 24-hour nursing care in the house, my dad being a drug addict, alcoholic, the whole bit. There were tears in my eyes in front of the Alabama Crimson Tide football team, in front of North Dakota State when I first gave my talk there, Kansas State, NFL teams I've worked with. That's the first thing that they hear. Because the reason is, if we can't allow these players who are distracted to be selfish first, to go find that inner fire, we're never going to be able to connect them to what it's going to take to actually put in the work, because things are different these days. And so if we start with that underlying fire that's in their heart, and then the goal is from there, let's understand their why and their purpose, how they think. they're then going to give you the discipline. They're going to have a desire to follow through with the discipline. They're going to want to attack with discipline. So we have to allow these young men and these young women to be selfish first and understand, why are you going to silence the distractions? Why are you not going to pay attention to NIL, even though it's a great thing? Why are you going to become part of a team when it's easy to be selfish these days? Let them be selfish first. Then you bring that fire together, and that's when you establish culture. So one of the linebackers rooms with one of the teams that I work with, I've encouraged the coaches in the offseason, make sure in your meetings in the offseason, you get more time with these guys. I want these guys standing up in your room, sharing their story, sharing their burn. So when they put their damn hand in the dirt come the fall, they know that the guy to the left of them, the guy to the right of them, what he's been through, what he's fighting for, he knows what you're fighting for, and that fire is something we're going to attack with that you're not going to be able to mess with. It's a whole different 60-minute fight when we all know what that burn's about. And so now when you walk into that coach's linebacker room, not only have they all shared the story, they all have made their burn one word. So now when everybody sees their one word, they remember what the burn is. So if you can imagine, you look up on this wall, and these kids have now been given permission to be transparent, to be vulnerable. This is my fire. I want you to know about me so we can go fight together. And they see that one word. So the player owns it, their teammates see it, and now they're ready to go and step into that burn and that fire and that fight together. And so, that to me is the difference these days. And if we don't go there with these young, distracted players, then it's never going to allow us to have performance. And let me just share this, because I think this is so important. NIL, for any of you that are in the sports world or people who are influenced by NIL, this NIL thing, I have no problem with kids getting paid. Coaches make a lot of money, kids make a lot of money, these programs make a lot, but you got to teach these kids that the $100,000 that they just received because they were good in high school, like, how do I protect that money? How do I keep that money? Because there's too many players who see the $100,000 as the end. They don't realize the $100,000 is a deposit that somebody says, God gave you something great, you've been using it. That's a $100,000 deposit on the $100 million bag that's waiting for you in the NFL. And these coaches aren't doing a good enough job of teaching these players how to navigate through how tough it is. Think of you when you were 18 years old. Somebody gave you a bag of $100,000 of cash. What would you have done? Right? And so we have to understand what's in these players' minds rather than just forcing them. Here's what I know, go do it. To me, it just doesn't work anymore. You've got to build a culture, and it's got to start with that fire for each player.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Chris Wilson in South Carolina. Then we're going to Ivor in Ohio.
Ben, thanks so much for coming on. It's great meeting you, hearing your story, and I'm definitely just getting a lot of value out of this. My question to you is about the discipline and how we can create that environment for discipline to occur. Because I noticed that sometimes I could be disciplined in certain activities and certain things, and then sometimes, like for example, in the gym, I'm very disciplined. But when it comes to eating, I lose that discipline. So how can we create an environment for discipline to take place?
So first off, what you say goes out of your mouth, goes into your ears. That's what you believe in, and that's how you take action. So right now, you believe that with nutrition, you're a loser. Okay, so I'm being direct to get you to smile about this, to break you down a little bit, okay? So you just said when it comes to nutrition, I lose. So you currently believe that you're a loser. So what you need to do is your mind needs to hear something different. So I always pay attention to everything people say. So now imagine if you say, God, I show extreme discipline in the gym, but man, there's an area of opportunity for me with my nutrition. Why, Chris? Because as soon as I get done, man, it's just like I'm so hungry, I just can't control this. Okay, well, then let's start with what I call the -1 with nutrition. I've helped offensive linemen that have retired. Chris, you know this. You better get that weight off fast, or you're going to have some long-term health problems. I mean, I'm sure you got plenty of friends, Chris, that played, offensive line, things of that nature. It's like you just feel terrible because they never get the weight off. And so I teach them the -1. Start with 1 meal a day, subtract one thing. So, all these people teach these diets. Eat a shake for breakfast, Subway for lunch, chicken breast for dinner with broccoli, and you'll be healthy the rest of your life. That is so unsustainable. Like, what a joke. That's not a diet. I mean, that's a short-term fad to lose weight. So I teach people the -1. So Chris, when you go to lunch today, if you were going to eat a cheeseburger and fries because you absolutely attacked the hell out of your weights in the gym and you're hungry, I'm fine. Eat the cheeseburger, no fries, fruit or a salad. That's a -1. Once we get used to doing the -1 at lunch, let's do a -1 at dinner and lunch. Let's do a -1 at breakfast. It's an elimination of calories and it's a numbers game. If we just use the fries as the example, and the fries is 300 calories and there's 30 days in a month, that's 9,000 calories because one time a day you say no to French fries. 9,000 calories. Anybody on here dispute that if you're working out, being healthy, and you eliminate 9,000 calories, that you're not going to lose weight? It's impossible to not lose weight. So I think what you have to do is kind of turn it into a game, right? I'm going to attack this one meal, then I'm going to do another. And that helps to build the environment by the little choices, not what most people teach you, which is, hey, just have a cheat meal on Saturdays and you eat healthy the rest of the week. Chris, you're a young dude hitting the iron hard. There's no possible way you're giving me one cheat meal a week because I say start that tomorrow. It's just too hard to change a discipline. That may last a short period of time. That's not long-term continual peak performance. It's very hard to do that.
Awesome. And I think I need the +1 because I'm trying to put on size. So the +1 of the right stuff. Then rather than the French fries, say it's a +1, it's a can of tuna when I get home. I'll eat that burger, no +1, I'm eating the can of, I slam tuna like it's going crazy because I try to stay so lean. I have trouble putting on weight. So I try to put on more weight. I try to keep my weight on. So lean disciplines, buy the snacks, buy the tuna, buy the things that you need to eat, and then just hammer at it. Yep. Awesome. Because I'll get home from the gym and be like, I'm too tired to make the meal now. So that's where I'm trying to learn how to move past the feelings and move into, what needs to get done to get it done. Like, and that's what you're talking about at the beginning, is pushing aside your feelings and just attacking and moving forward.
Yep.
All right, guys, we have way too many questions for the minutes we have left. So Ivor, you're up. Then Bruce in Oregon, you're up.
And if we go a few minutes over, I'm fine, Scott.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Thank you for your time here, Ben. It's been really awesome to meet you, and Scott, grateful for you arranging this. So, Ben, my question is around Ed Milet's party, because I know in the last couple episodes of your podcast with Sean Whalen, Jesse Lee Ward, Gabrielle Lyon, and others, you mentioned that and you met them there. And there must have been something really special about that event. And so I'm wondering if you could share what that was like and what the connections were. And also, what's the commonality between the people that you met there and then had on your podcast? And what did you learn from them that you can share with us?
A couple of things. I will answer the question directly. A couple of things to stay connected, because there's others that have questions. My Instagram is @continuedfight. My Instagram is @continuedfight. So if you send me a DM, like you're actually going to get me, I'm going to be the one who's going to respond. I mean, there's people on our team who, will handle things for me, but @continuedfight. And then the podcast that you're referencing, our podcast is called The Burn. So those people can go watch those episodes. As far as the Ed Milet event, Ed is a dear friend, mentor of mine, close friend. He invited me to speak at that event. So we actually flew out a handful of speakers, John Gordon, Erwin McManus, Jamie Kern-Lima, and we went out there to speak to honor Ed because his book had done so well. There were 200 people in the audience that had supported the release of Ed's book. And I mean, it's The Power of One More. It's a life-changing book if you haven't read it. I mean, it's just an incredible book. And so we go to honor him, and you're meeting all these people, and what do they have in common? They do what they say they're going to do. It's like everybody that you meet. Well, I run this business. Well, how did you? And long story short, I mean, if you ask somebody like, what do you think it takes to be great? What makes you great? It's discipline. I do the things that I say I'm going to do. I believe in myself. I show up every day. I don't allow my wins to keep me from progressing forward. I don't allow my wins to keep me from being disciplined. And that's what they have in common. There was a high level of belief, high level of discipline, and a high level of love for our friend Ed Milet.
Awesome. Thank you. And for everyone, the podcast, The Burn, is awesome. I've been listening to it on my runs, and it's highly motivational to keep me running, and it's great stuff. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Bruce in Oregon, you're up. Then we're going to Randy in Florida.
Ben, thank you so much for your time. I just love your energy. I'm a big sports fan, and I'm curious as to your view on two what I think are troubling trends in professional sports, being load management and tanking, and the messages that they send to young athletes and everybody else.
Well, first off, I have, and I'm just using myself as an example. Okay. And I'm not recommending this to anybody. Today was the 1,391st straight day that I've worked out. And I'm not talking about 20 push-ups. I've done at least a 45-minute workout for 1,391 straight days. There were 10 days where all I could do was curls because I had had surgery on a staph infection. The other 1,391, I do this crazy workout, 10 exercises from 10 minutes of planking every day to crazy wall sits. It's nuts. I call it the unrequired. And so if I'm a 44-year-old guy that can work out for 1,391 straight days, there's something tells me that it's an agent or somebody that's getting involved. Unless a player has an issue where the doctors can say there's something going on with my knees, you really need to take time off. But unfortunately, I think there's cases to where there's too much leniency there. Michael Jordan didn't take time off. Michael Jordan to me is one of the greatest, toughest athletes to ever walk the face of the earth. He wasn't taking, days off. And as far as tanking goes, I was with a group of financial advisors in Austin, Texas, virtually. It's a group that I do ongoing work with. A lot of my work is ongoing because people say we can't do this once. We got to keep this going. So whether it's our Uncommon Live coaching program where I do group coaching or organizations that bring me in, you have to keep this going. And one of the things I said to these advisors that they actually have 2 years within their year, I said, you can't sandbag. I said, if you're behind where you wanted to be on your goals, you got to finish strong to keep the momentum going. And wherever you finish, that was your story for this year. And what does that story tell you about you so that you can grow from this point moving forward? But if you're going to hold back these 5 opportunities so you get next year started off right, that's not how winning is done. And we can't. So that to me is like tanking for, hey, we're going to go for this draft pick. And so to me, I think it's inexcusable. To me, I think it taints sports. And if you really look at the competitors, they don't believe in tanking.
Phenomenal answer. Randy in Florida, then we're going to Lindsay in Indiana.
Real quick, it's not even a question. It's more of a comment. My son's name is Ben. And when I talk to him and I want to get in his ear, I call him Benny Boy. So when you were talking about your coach,
I love it.
to me, I was like, I had to share that with you. Thank you for being here today.
Randy, thank you. Keep hollering that Benny Boy at him. Good things will happen.
Lindsay, you're up. Do we lose?
Yes.
Lindsay?
So I actually just kind of changed my question here. So I guess I'm going to ask from the religious standpoint, because you talked about accepting Christ. And so I'm assuming you're well-versed with the Bible. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yes.
Okay. So just a question in terms of Sabbath and taking a 7-day rest, and then what you shared about workout. Can you kind of talk through that dynamic?
So, for me, I was born Jewish. Now I'm a Christian. So I'm what many people refer to as a Jew for Jesus. So if you hang with me, you'll be okay. You can see on my neck here, I've got a Jewish star that my mother got when she got bat mitzvah, and then I've got my nice cross here. So you hang with me, I'm duly protected. You'll be all right. So that's what I always tell people. So obviously, I actually live, believe it or not, in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. So all my neighbors, they see Newman on a rock in front of the house. They think I'm still Jewish. It confuses them. They're walking to the temple, and so I perform, and it's hard for me to turn my mind off. And so I'm kind of going every day. My rest day is my intentional time with family. Sundays do tend to be a little bit more low key, but every day I'm either in a devotional or a Bible, which kind of slows me down to remember where my faith should stay connected to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Ben, do you have time for one more?
Yep, one more. Let's fire away.
All right, one more. Brand new member, literally just I think signed up yesterday. Jason Starbuck in California. You're up. You're a cleanup hitter. You're on mute.
Well, it's good to meet you, Ben. I haven't met anybody here as well, except for maybe one person is Tom, who invited me. So it's pretty cool to kind of be here. I wanted to touch two things. One is it was really cool to hear you talk about your mother. And one thing that you had said was that if you had a chance, you would sit and listen to her. And about 3 months ago, I realized that my father is now getting older. He's in his 70s. And I realized, who could I learn the most from? And for the last 3 months, I've been sitting with him at 7:30 in the morning on Zoom and recording every single hour once a week with him. And I believe it'll be the coolest thing as technology comes around, that all those Zooms may turn into something with AI and I get to learn even more. There could be some cool stuff. So anybody that can do that, thanks for kind of keeping me on path. The second one was that you work with athletes and then you decided to work with executives. What did you find was the difference that athletes have that you can get them to move? Many times the body kind of will move, but the mind doesn't always move the same as the body. What did you find in the transition of working with executives compared to athletes, or the struggles?
Well, believe it or not, I mean, I think everybody's actually wired to drive to be successful, I believe. But the key is how do you speak to that wiring and make sure that the wiring is right? So I believe some athletes have some of the greatest minds I've ever been exposed to. So it's not just that they understand the physical. So they're some of the smartest, most unbelievable entrepreneurs. There's a handful of guys that I can even think of that played in the NFL, and their ability to be entrepreneurs, the money they make, their level of brilliance, like it is at a higher level than any executive I've ever worked with. I mean, they're just geniuses. And so I think what it comes down to is finding your passions. Mm-hmm. So similar to sharing the answer about the book, you know, with Paul, I think you gotta understand your passions. You gotta chase your passions. So if it's football, how do I connect every day to what it's going to take? And am I willing to be intentional enough in that environment? Because I found those players have a heightened level of awareness to what they have access to. So they're going to utilize their brain for the sponsors. They're going to utilize their brain when they get to go to an event. And they're going to pay attention and build relationships because they realize the exposure they're going to get after the game. Executives, it's the same thing, right? There's a heightened level of awareness, a level of intentionality. And I think when people have awareness and intentionality, and it's more, I'd call it you hear the word focus. Oh, I'm focused. That's not enough. It's intentional focus. And what I found, whether it be athletes or executives, those that have intentional focus, there's awareness and they absolutely attack any and all opportunities. So I think it comes down to the wiring, connecting to that wiring, and then attacking everything that's in front of you so you can maximize all opportunity.
That's great. Thank you.
Ben, I cannot thank you enough for doing a little overtime with us. This has been a really, really impactful time with you. And I cannot thank you enough. We're a community of about 600 outliers in 34 different countries. How can we help support you?
For me, the most important thing is go download that playbook, because here's the price. You give somebody something literally for free, and it's like nobody takes it serious. Like go look right now. You can buy it on Amazon for $19.99 if you want to, or you can go download it for free. So it's your choice. If you need to pay for it to take it serious, go on Amazon and buy it there. Otherwise, you can get it for free. But I tease, but definitely do that. But the best thing I could say, right, it's not so much what can you do for me. For me, it's that you make some sort of change in your life that heads you in a direction of being more disciplined. My mother taught me the greatest life lesson I've ever learned. It's not how long you live, it's how you choose to live your life. If somebody wanted me for a speaking event, if somebody wanted to become part of one of our programs or live coaching or whatever it is, you'll figure out how to find me. I'm more concerned about you making those decisions and choices in your life that are going to give you more strength to drive continual peak performance.
Ben, you're amazing. You're a legend. Thank you so much, my friend.
Scott, I appreciate you. I appreciate the thoughtfulness and preparation of your time and how you do things. I appreciate you big time and love what you're doing here with the group. Thanks you for having me.
You got it. All right, we're going to let Ben go. If anyone wants to stay,